I know that this is probably maybe even a personal failing on some level, but every time I feel like I'm just starting to have a discussion about horror, I feel like someone should very loudly start playing the score to Cape Fear.
Boom, 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 boom.
Which I think is the greatest like horror scary score ever recorded.
It's so good.
Just love it to death. There's a great album by Mike Patton. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He was in Faith No More and Mr. Bungle.
Oh, I know Faith No More.
But he had a band called Phantomas that did a whole album of and it was a rock band setup, but they did covers of classic horror movie themes, and as well as they did like The Godfather and some of the stuff like that. But they do Cape Fear, and it's like almost better than the original soundtrack version.
That's something I'm gonna have to track down.
Yeah, really, really, really good. It's called Phantomas, the Director's Cut. But you know what? We're not actually reviewing Phantomas or Cape Fear.
Or music
In any form. If you catch me talking about music again, just say, all right, Cyrus, ask Corey if you can have a music show already.
Appropriate to this show, we will just change the channel.
Exactly. But no, we're talking about horror, and you know what? Let's just jump right into it.
There's a lot of horror.
There's a lot of there's so many horrors on Leog. I mean, wait, what?
What? Our driver?
You know what? I want to talk about this film that I encourage you to watch with lots of like codicil saying like addendum going, look, I'm not saying this is a good movie because it totally is not a good movie, but Psychic Experiment is so out of control, retarded, nonsensical, multicolored stuff that I couldn't stop watching it. This is just out on DVD from Lionsgate, and it stars a whole slew of people historically from the horror industry, including Adrienne King from the surviving girl from the original Friday the 13th, who hasn't been in anything in forever, and she's
I thought she was dead.
She's the main villain in this. Katie Featherston from the
Paranormal Activities
has a small role in this. I was pleased as hell to see Reggie Bannister, who's like the guy with the ponytail in the Phantasm films. He's one of the main characters playing a just out of jail child molester.
Great role for any actor.
As near as it's possible to tell you what this movie's about. Because,
good luck.
Trust me, it's not really about. It's hard to say any. Yeah, I don't know. I can't have a hard time even phrasing the sentence structure around telling you this. But it's a small town, and this guy has just come back to it, and I can't even. I guess he's working for a scientific institute there in the town. I guess I wasn't sure, was he a cop or was he actually a doctor?
You're already thinking more about this movie than I was capable of.
Well, so he went there, and then everyone's having hallucinations, and things are getting gooey, and people are dying for no reason, and people that are on fire are appearing out of thin air.
People are getting gooey. I like the way you describe that, because that's exactly what happens.
And they're getting sucked into walls for no apparent reason, and apparently it's like this scientific people there have put microchips in people's heads as part of a study that gives them psychic powers, and some of them are receivers and some of them are senders or something.
I love that the big surprise of this movie is ruined by its title. Yeah. Like, what's going on? What could possibly... It's like, it's a psychic experiment. It's like, really? Yeah. It's a fucking psychic... You told us that. Damn you.
Well, what does any of the stuff that's actually happening have to do with psychic powers? I mean, this is some strange, never before mentioned psychic ability that... I mean, this wasn't even in the psionics list in D&D of the stuff that these people can do. You know? I mean, they make strange on fire people.
They do, they do a weird combination of, like, the Thing effects to people, and then... like a Neo Videodrome where like guy's cell phone wires are crawling up through him. And the best thing I can say about this movie, and believe me, this is the most generous I can be, is, and I think Luke actually brought this up, is that I like that they're trying to do some practical effects, and not every single shot is CG. And especially for a movie with what is clearly a $12 budget, that's impressive. And that's it. That's all I got.
I mean, this movie's a piece of shit. Oh, let's just be honest. It's a piece of shit. They do get a little bit of credit for two things. A, somehow assembling a fairly stellar cast, like you were talking about earlier. Another guy that you guys may recognize, Glenn Morshower, who is a redheaded dude who has been the general or admiral or colonel in every movie you've ever seen in your life.
He was a regular character on 24 for a long time, I think.
Yeah, and probably most famously in the 3 Transformers films, he's like the big head general guy.
Fuck those movies.
I just meant a lot of people saw them.
Nope, I've erased them from my memory.
Okay. Wow, all of them?
What? All of what?
Oh, wow, that's going a little far, I think. But also Kathy Lampkin, who plays the giant lady in the Texas Chainsaw, either one or both of the remakes. I think maybe just the second remake.
I feel like she may have also was she also in No Country for Old Men as the
Temple, Texas lady?
I don't know. No, as the fucking trailer park attendant.
Pretty much every woman cast in this film.
Anyway, you will recognize Kathy Lampkin if you have seen any horror films.
Almost every woman cast in this film was either going to end up as a horror scream queen or as a porn star, and some of them have done both. So I mean, it's that kind of film. But you know what?
Anyway, so I was sorry, just real quick. I was just saying that it does get credit for assembling a decent cast and for attempting some practical effects.
You know, I feel like it was so stupid, insane that I was entertained by it. I mean, it's just nonstop. And I would rather watch something as terrible as this film is, and I'm not saying it's not, but that's constantly doing weird shit. I mean, it never stops. There's no boring parts. It's like, here's something else that doesn't make any sense. It's totally fucked up.
Yeah.
But then yet another just slasher film that's going down the road that has a really high budget and decent actors in it. I'd rather see this than the Friday the 13th remake. Day.
Whoa.
Sorry.
No.
I would, because I'm
Veto.
like,
no.
Sorry, man. I've seen that movie 1,000 fucking times. This movie, you've never seen anything like it, and you will never see anything like it again because
I mean, to what
I think you're giving this movie way too much credit.
I'm not giving it credit. I'm saying it is what it is. It's entertaining in the same way that you tell me, Brian, how much you like some of these really terrible movies.
I will say, to that point, I will say it's like picking up a VHS early 80s horror movie that when you pop in has no narrative structure whatsoever.
Oh, yeah.
And there are plenty of those.
Yeah.
However, I think there reaches a certain point where that loses its charm, and I think that point was like 1989.
I will say it may work better with a 6-pack and a group of friends.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Yes, definitely.
Totally advise that. Yes.
And I think the real star of the movie is Katie Featherston's Wreck. So
isn't that
the real star of every film?
Yes.
Yeah. At least the ones that she's in, which I think is pretty much this and Paranormal Activity. But,
yes.
Anyway, let's go ahead and move on, because we don't need to spend more time than that on that.
Agreed.
And let's talk about, our buddies at Synapse. We love Synapse Film, and they put out so much good stuff. Like they put out Frankenhooker earlier this year.
Yes, they did.
On Blu-ray, which was...
I love that you said that after you said good stuff.
Oh, man, I love Frankenhooker.
Frankenhooker's pretty awesome.
I'm not disagreeing.
Anything by Frank Henlotter is, as far as I'm concerned, a must-see.
Yeah. He's the Kmart version of Cronenberg.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's all about weird body horror stuff, but made on like a bargain budget.
I never was clear before I saw Frankenhooker whether or not he even was tongue-in-cheek. I was like, either he's being very tongue-in-cheek about this or he's kind of crazy.
I think it's a little column A and a little column B.
Yeah, maybe so. But this is not one of his films. This is a film that I had never heard of, and which really surprised me, being as big of an Evil Dead 2 fan as I am, because this comes out of that whole little community of guys that work together on fucking everything, with Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi and Ted Raimi and Scott Spiegel, who was the co-writer and I believe co-producer of Evil Dead 2.
Yes, that's correct.
And this was I think it was his first film. I'm not 100% on that, but anyway, it was one of his very early films. No, it was not his first film. I'm sorry. His first film was Attack of the Helping Hand, so it was his second directed film. But
Attack of the Helping Hand sounds like Evil Dead 2.
Doesn't it though? It's where they expanded that whole thing. Well, that was just a short film, so I don't know if
maybe that's where it came from.
Yeah, actually, it was about a woman being stalked by the hamburger helper hand. So
wow.
Tracking that down.
The first person to die in it is Sam Raimi. So,
oh, dude. That's amazing.
This is the type of thing that I wish they had put in the bonus features here, which I don't believe they did. But, here's the thing about Intruder. It's a film that I really wanted to like more than I was capable of liking. There's so many things about it that seem like, oh God, this is those hidden gems that you can't believe it, and you find it, you're like, oh, it's so even more awesome than I could have imagined. And it's just never quite there. You see why it has faded into obscurity. It's not terrible. it's just, maybe it's that I walked into it expecting way too much. I mean, like I said, it's got Bruce Campbell on it. It's got, what's his name? The guy from Evil Dead 2 played the Hick guy, who is the head owner of the supermarket here.
Oh, God.
You know what
You're putting me on the
about,
fucking spot, and I am failing.
I apologize for those people that I don't have that information right at hand. But, yeah, the guy who played the total Hick guy in Evil Dead 2 plays one of the lead characters here. There's... Like I said, Ted Raimi's in it. Sam Raimi is in it as one of these people. And it's a bunch of people who work at a supermarket late night. And this one girl who works there is clearly being stalked by an ex-boyfriend who just got out of prison. Who, when bodies start turning up around the place, which these people, this must be one fucking huge supermarket because it takes them forever.
It's like a super fucking Walmart.
I know, right? It must be huge because nobody notices that there are all these bodies everywhere. And there are a lot of bodies. This thing has a huge body count. You figure it's got to be the boyfriend, right? Except as someone who watches horror.
Red herring, yum.
They emphasize it that much, then it's clearly not that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
99 times out of 100.
And the thing about Intruder, which I felt the same way you did, I was really excited to discover a horror gem, and this turned out to be like watching somebody try to inflate a bike tire that has a hole in it, and then just keep on pumping, and it's like, oh no, you'll never get there. The thing about this movie is they try to do a lot of the same weird cinematography that Evil Dead did. Like, I remember one shot in particular in this movie where they actually filmed someone dialing a phone from inside the phone, looking out through the rotary, and it's like...
There's so much stuff like that where you're like, okay, it's that weird little period of time with these people, these incredibly creative group of people who were just trying everything new. They're like, nobody's done this yet. Let's try and do this. Let's do this wacky thing. And they were just a bunch of almost teenagers, really, just barely past being teenagers, making these films together. And this is an example of the stuff that didn't work.
It's everything else.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you got to give them serious points for trying.
Yeah.
Greg Nicotero did the horror practical effects, which are the best thing about this.
Oh, absolutely.
There are points where it doesn't work so well, but there are points where it works really well. And make no mistake, this is super gory stuff at points.
And, to Synapse credit, they are putting out another Scott Spiegel movie pretty soon that I feel does everything we were hoping this one would do, which is a movie called Thou Shalt Not Kill Except, which is a kind of a crazy cult versus a military. It's kind of like the A-Team meets the Manson family, which is really, really fun. And actually, Sam Raimi plays the bad guy, and he's so goddamn awesome in it.
Spiegel didn't direct that, though. He just produced and wrote it.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's correct. That's my bad.
What's his name? Larry Cohen, I believe, right? No, I'm sorry. It's Josh Becker.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry. But anyway,
he was involved. He didn't direct.
There's a whole period of these films that were coming out around there that they were all working on together. A lot of people don't realize that the Coen brothers in those days were actually involved
Wave
in all this stuff. Crime Wave, and they were... They had something to do with Evil Dead. I can't remember what.
Really?
Yeah, they're listed on the credits.
Huh.
But, those guys all went to film school together.
Yeah.
So, weird as that is. That's why Bruce Campbell's in Fargo.
That's correct.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even realize that, but when the guys are... I can't remember the actor's name, but he's watching the two criminals when he's watching the soap opera in the cabin. It's Bruce Campbell is the star of the soap opera that he's watching. That's a fun trivia question.
Indeed.
I don't know. I like Intruder in a sort of warm and fuzzy look at this portrait of this picture of time, but as an actual movie, it's probably not all that good. Still, if you're a fan of these guys, it kind of is like one of those movies you'd want to own anyway as a completist. Yeah. There's a lot of bonus features on it, as Synapse films tend to have.
Speaking of owning it.
Oh, yeah, speaking of owning it, thank you for bringing me there, Luke, because...
Giveaway!
We're going to do this giveaway right in the middle of the segment so people aren't all like, I'll just go to the end of the thing. We're unpredictable like that.
Man, we change it up. Don't try to put us in a box.
We're going to make it so difficult for you to get free stuff from us, you won't believe it. No, what I've got,
we are assholes.
We're such dicks. What I've got here is a whole handful of stuff from Synapse Entertainment, like I said, who have been so good to us, and their releases are, they did Maniac Cop recently.
Which, by the way, that Maniac Cop release is... Not only is it great and it pays homage to the movie like it should, but we had never gotten a Maniac Cop release on either format. Well, no, that's not true because their DVD release was pretty good. But no, that is it. Seriously, that Synapse Blu-ray release of Maniac Cop is outstanding, and you should definitely pick it up. It's a great movie, and it looks great on their Blu-ray.
Synapse are one of the few companies, along with maybe Shout Factory, that take classic horror and spend the time to fix it up and make it look good and treat it with respect. And, like classic being, of course, it depends
it's a
on
dubious
your perception.
term.
but, you know, for those who do consider themselves really serious horrophiles, yes. And what I've got here for giveaway is not only do I have 3 copies of Intruder on Blu-ray, which is, like I said, a movie totally worth seeing, and I felt bad that we both didn't like it as much as we did, because everywhere I read on the net are people calling it a classic and loving it.
That's fantastic.
Horror aficionados going, no, I adore that film. Okay, well,
there's enough there that I'm totally happy that some people feel that way.
Yeah, absolutely, me too. It's because it's not a terrible film by any stretch of imagination. It didn't strike the right resonance with me. But the film that did, I got 3 copies of motherfucking Frankenhooker.
Frankenhooker!
Come on, man. Frankenhooker in his house. I'm glad Leon's not here because he'd say, never do that again.
Hey, man, don't do that again.
We're going to come back to the whole, what, I'm black, so you got to lower your voice? Is that what it is?
No, your voice is just lower than mine, goddammit.
I love both. I love Frankenhooker to death. I really do. I think it couldn't be funnier. Look it up. Trust me. It's super fun, totally worth owning, and a movie that you don't want your parents to catch you watching. So that alone should be good. What is going to be the giveaway word for both of these films? I don't know. What do you guys think? What about Frankenhooker?
For Frankenhooker? Oh my gosh.
Could be almost anything.
Yeah, it really could. I don't know. I'm blanking.
Something. Luke!
Hooker in a trunk.
Hooker in a trunk.
Is that too many words? We need like one word.
It can be a phrase.
Yeah, hooker in a trunk.
We'll go hooker in a trunk is the word. All right.
I like it.
So what about Intruder?
I think it should be Spiegel, because not only is that the name of the director, but it sounds like something you yell at people you don't like.
And we're not too worried about the spelling. You can phonetic it out if you don't bother.
We're not looking for exact spelling, just exact everything else.
Spiegel! As long as it starts with an SP.
Spiegel, yeah. All right, so let's move on. I actually have to scroll down to see exactly where our next horror movie is, because even I'm unsure. Burke and Hare, which is not really a horror movie. It's kind of a horror comedy.
It's not really a movie.
See, this is one of these films we're going to kind of disagree on, because while I didn't anywhere near love Burke and Hare, I thought it was kind of entertaining. I thought there was a lot of sequences in it that made me laugh, and which makes me happy, because this is the first film in 12 years from John Landis, who's a classic film director. I mean, that guy's made some of the funniest comedies ever made, this not being one of them.
No, not even close.
To be fair, but I still thought there was a lot going for it. This stars Simon Pegg and Andy Serkis as William Burke and William Hare, respectively. It is based, believe it or not, on a true story and largely clings to the events that happened in England and Edinburgh. When now I don't even have the information here about when exactly this happened. But hold on one second. No. 1820, around 1827, 1828, where these two guys who were entrepreneurs discovered that a local scientist...
That's one way to put it.
A local scientist, played by Tom Wilkinson here, as well as his rival, who's richer and has the approval of the crown, played by Tim Curry, are looking for bodies so that they can dissect them. And there's a sort of contest going on to get official stamp from the crown. And so Wilkinson, who finds himself in a position where he's no longer allowed to get for free executed prisoners' corpses, is looking for them anywhere he can get.
And paying top dollar for them.
Paying top dollar for bodies, which of course leads Simon Pegg and Andy Serkis to start giving him bodies, because like I said, they're nothing if not entrepreneurs. And along the way, when the corpses that just turn up stop doing that, they've got to start making their own corpses.
Yep.
Now, I've heard some complaints that one of the problems is that this film never delves into its own darkness. It's like, shouldn't this be kind of horrifying? And it never even touches on that. I mean, it's really almost a romantic comedy, really, which is an odd thing for these guys who are unquestionably people who deserve to be punished.
Yeah.
Reprehensible
people.
Yeah. Simon Pegg is in love with a young woman who is well, I don't want to say any bad things, sweeping generalizations about woman, but she's I don't want to call her a gold digger.
But she ain't messing with no broke corpse
and when
people.
And it's played by Isla Fisher, who of course is gorgeous, by the way, and she wants to promote her play. She wants to do an all-woman's version of Macbeth, and Simon Pegg is totally hot for her, as I would be. I would kill people for her.
Totally.
So I totally understand that.
Yeah, she's hot.
She is very hot. Isn't she the one who's married to, what's his face from Borat?
Yes, she is, in fact, married to Mr. Ali G.
That weirds me out. That makes me uncomfortable knowing that she's constantly in touch with that much body hair.
Man, it's so hilarious, though. Just real quick, on the first season of the Ali G show, Sacha Baron Cohen was interviewing the former chief of police for the LAPD, and he's talking about, what is legal and what is the definition of legal and what is barely legal, and he's like, oh yeah, actually Isla had this joke about, the barely legal and the under 18 porn and all this stuff, and you're like, she's fucking hilarious. Like, she's just really, really funny.
I think she has a natural gift for comedy.
Yeah, absolutely.
She does. With you. And I thought she was funny in here, but not as funny as she should have been. Her part was rather underwritten on the whole, which is when I go to that sweeping generalizations. This movie kind of makes the mistake of making her be, just like I said, just kind of a gold digger character, and when it's time for her to be sympathetic, it's hard to really buy into that. If anything, there's a problem with, like I said, it's these characters, it doesn't explore the things that you want them to explore in the right way.
Yeah.
However, I thought a lot of the actual set piece jokes were really pretty funny. There's several incidences throughout this movie, which is, by the way, peppered with fantastic comedy actors from throughout British television history. I mean, there's so many great people. Jessica Hines is Andy Serkis, who's from Spaced. Mm-hmm. Bill Bailey is the Hangman. I mean, every time there's a new scene, a new character pops up, you're like, oh my god, it's the guy from that show. I love that show. I mean, I don't even want to spoil it for you. I would say it's worth seeing if you're a BBC television fan, just for the whole spot the guy who's in that awesome show game.
Pretty much.
Yeah, because it's filled with it. Like I said, it doesn't really totally function, but for the reasons I already said. But you know what,
sure.
You guys go ahead.
I mean, I think the biggest thing this is going to come down to for us is just like The Hangover. Like, you think it's funny and we don't. Like, I don't think either one of us laughed at all during this film, and that's the biggest problem. Like, it's a comedy, and it's either going to work for you or it's not. And if it's not, it's going to fall really, really flat.
No,
because that's totally what they're going for. You're right. They don't delve into the macabre at all, which is, I guess, a little unfortunate, maybe. I feel like it would have been forgivable if the movie were funnier.
I would have liked a darker tone. I would have liked any real tone at all. Like, I just feel like
it felt very bland.
It just felt like things were happening because they needed to happen to propel the script. I didn't feel like it was grounded to anything. I didn't feel like any of the actors really cared what was happening. And maybe that's an extension of the fact that if it had been more sinister, and the fact that these deeds actually, like, if the characters had realized the weight of their deeds, that would have at least centered the movie for me.
Yeah.
But I just felt like it was so lighthearted about murder that it felt too light and just got away from itself, and I didn't care.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree with you. I think there are at the point in the film where they come back around to saying, oh, now we have to show that at least one of these characters feels bad with his deeds. It feels very unconvincing. It feels like a contrivance of the plot. And like I said, I have big issues with the plot on that level. I just thought the actual jokes, as it were, did more than not work for me here. Maybe it's just because I'm so in love with a lot of these actors in here, but
sure.
And Simon Pegg, I would see Simon Pegg in anything, and Simon Pegg in a John Landis movie should have been a home run for me, and it fell flat.
Yeah.
And we've kind of skimmed over some of the more technical aspects, but just on a technical level, this movie looks terrible.
Here we go. And Luke, tell us why.
It's really sad. Oh man, it's really sad because you have John Landis, who is obviously an established director. They shot on film, so there's no digital, like, oh, we didn't understand the new digital cameras or anything. And the DP is the guy that shot, like, Gladiator, which looks fantastic. Like, the DP has shot many big budget films on 35mm film. There's absolutely no reason for this movie to look like shit. And all of the scenes where things are supposed to be dark and black are navy blue. Navy blue is the black of this film, and it's poorly lit, it's poorly color timed, it just looks like shit. It's really kind of surprising.
Yeah, this is Luke's area. Like, this is the shit he knows, and it's stuff that I wouldn't even maybe notice, but then once he pointed it out, I couldn't stop seeing it.
For this particular film, which is shot in 2.35, on your widescreen television, you're going to see the black bars in the top and the bottom. Just pause a night scene and compare what should be black in the frame to the black bar at the top. And you'll see this huge difference between what should be black and what is clearly like a gray-blue blob.
That's a very digestible way to put it. Like,
yeah,
it's simple,
just
practical.
looks bad. And you can look at Rise of the Planet of the Apes in a night scene, and you'll see something that's much, much closer to the black bars.
I feel like I don't notice as much when... This is only on DVD, by the way. I don't notice as much when it's on DVD because I expect to see something now when I'm watching those and go like, yeah, this isn't as pleasing to the eye. That I just don't think about it.
There are quality differences there, but this is the type of thing that is so egregious that even on DVD it should have looked much better.
Well, anyway, that was Burke and Hare. Now we're going to move on to one of the movies you actually did care about us talking about this week, which is the remake of Fright Night. Now, once again, I wouldn't call this one of the biggest surprises of the year because I don't think this remake was fantastic. But it was pretty darn good.
But it is a remake of a film that, I guess I can't speak for all of us, but I think we all have a lot of affection for the original Fright Night.
Yeah.
Like, that movie is damn good.
Oh, my God.
And it's so much fun. And it was one of those situations where it's like, really? They're going to take a movie that us horrorphiles really like, they're going to remake it in 3D, and cast fucking Colin Farrell? Yeah. Like, it had all of the ingredients for just a shitstorm from us. And frankly, it was pretty good.
Yeah.
We expected it to suck, and it didn't.
You know what? It was one of those films that if it sucked, I wouldn't have even been mad about it because I really would have been like, okay, well, there you go.
We all kind of expected it.
So I don't really care. The original movie's still there. It's not the type of film I'd be excited about expanding the mythology or anything. You know, it is what it is. And yet, even though I felt like for the first maybe 40 minutes of this, they were just reiterating the exact same ground as the original to where it was kind of getting on my nerves. It wasn't that it was done badly. It was like, I already saw this movie. And I can't say it was done better.
I thought they did I thought they did some interesting things where they actually deviated from the original movie.
They did eventually.
Well, no, at the beginning. Because at the beginning, I don't want to get too much into it, but at the beginning of the movie, the main character, Charlie...
played by Anton Yelchin.
Who's really good in this movie, by the way. A lot of charisma. Easily carries the movie. I was very surprised that because I haven't seen him in much since Terminator Salvation, which was
Star Trek.
Well, yeah, obviously he's good in Star Trek, but then Terminator Salvation was like, fuck you.
Yeah. Yes, it is a fuck you.
But no, like the thing is, they're not friends at the beginning of this movie, and that seems like such a minor little difference, but it ends up being a huge part of the plot, and you realize that all throughout the movie they're comfortable bowing, kind of not bowing, but nodding to the original film without completely kowtowing to it. I think they take a lot of risks in the things they deviate, and I think it actually works better for that character later on.
I feel like the strengths of this film are where they deviate, really, and maybe it's just because I've seen the original so many goddamn times, because back when it came out, I was a super fan, I'm embarrassed to admit. I mean, I saw it several times in the theater. I owned it on Betamax. I mean,
Betamax.
I guess somewhere that copy still exists. I think
it had the most amazing cover art. It was so great, like one of the best of the 80s.
Absolutely terrific, and had his girlfriend in it. It was the next door neighbor's wife on Married with Children.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're right. That was totally her.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I never really thought she was terribly attractive, except in that movie.
No, you're right. Because after that, it was like, okay.
Well, I know Brian and I were sitting around. There's one particular moment near, a first act moment that I'm still not going to spoil, but they choose to kill a character off early, much, much earlier than that character ends up dead in the first one. And Brian and I are just kind of like, that's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, you're like, your first reaction is, that person is not supposed to die. No, I'm just, fuck you. But giving it a minute and kind of letting the plot work itself out, you're like, oh, that actually kind of works.
No, at first you're like, the tension is gone, because you're like, well, obviously I've seen the original, he's not going to die here. And then when he does, it's like, oh,
wow, yeah,
interesting. I like that. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Once it gets to about the halfway point, in fact, once they introduce David Tennant, who plays a very different version of Peter Vincent.
Peter Vincent.
I really like what they did.
I did too. I loved, obviously I'm a big Whovian, so I'm like, I was ready for Tennant to do anything great. But the concept of making him like a Chris Angel type character,
it was a great update.
From the outside, it irritated the shit out of me. When you see it in the movie, it fucking works like crazy.
Yeah, it totally works.
Totally works.
Because we don't have that character like like Roddy McDowall played in the original, where
we don't have midnight horror hosts anymore.
We don't have public access like that.
Not
that anybody.
Differ,
but not that anybody pays attention.
That she's super relevant right now, so that totally works.
Yeah,
wait, no.
So,
that's what I'm saying.
So it was a character that needed to be updated. It had to be changed in some way, and I think the way that they did it kept the spirit of the Roddy McDowall character, where it's kind of a flim-flam guy, and having that
he's not what
moment
he says
of like,
he is.
Holy shit, like this is real.
Mm-hmm. I thought there was
I like that a lot.
A very terrific Buffy-esque sequence where they're going through his like museum of collectibles in the world of the supernatural that he doesn't believe does shit.
Yeah.
In his great I'm a super rich guy like Las Vegas penthouse, but they're fighting these vampires, just busting open glass cages.
Yeah,
I thought that was
going, what does
awesome,
this do? Oh, it's like, oh
awesome
my god,
set.
that was fucking amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Such a great set piece. And like I said, from the point they meet him on, I think this goes from a okay movie to a fucking really good movie. I mean, it's a film that's fun if you like horror or not, although be warned, there is actually some pretty fucking gory stuff that happens at points.
And it's pretty awesome too. Like one of the best scenes in the movie involves a vampire accidentally walking out into the sun. And you've seen so many movies that really like belabor it, where it's just like, oh, they're melting, and it just keeps going. This is literally like dum dum dum, woof, gone. And it's like you don't expect it to happen, and then you're like, holy shit. It was pretty amazing.
We were talking. One of my biggest problems with it is that, especially towards the end, some of the effects get a little overly rubbery and goofy, and particularly Colin Farrell like changing. It's unfortunate on two levels. It's unfortunate because it was K&B effects, and these are the guys. I mean, this is Greg Nicotero. These are the guys that pioneered really awesome practical effects work.
Oh, yeah.
And so you would have loved to have seen them go with a rubber mask or something cool. But just like Brian was saying, like the vampire walking out into the sun is a CG effect, and it looked great.
Yeah,
so it's
I thought
not,
so too.
So there is some bad CG, but not all the CG.
Right.
It's
not all the
always,
CG is bad, but some of it is.
It's not always one thing or the other. As people who grew up with practical, I love it when people do practical and choose to do practical and make it work. I love that. I'm very affectionate towards it. But I really have no issues with CG if it's done well.
As long as it's done well.
And often it is. They're getting so much better at it now that it's starting to be much less of an issue. And
I will say Colin Farrell does a really good job in this movie. He really is bringing it.
I am not a Colin Farrell hater. Never have been. The only thing I hate about Colin Farrell is that he makes terrible choices.
Sure, he
films
does.
He picks.
Yeah, he does.
But I've never thought he is a bad performer on any level. I've liked him in almost everything I've ever seen. Fucking In Bruges was just recently.
Oh, In Bruges.
He's great
Fantastic
in that film.
Yeah.
I think Colin Farrell's just a fine actor. He just needed a better agent.
And in particular, like the sequence where he goes over to borrow the beer, where Yelchin is just starting to suspect him.
So he doesn't invite him in.
Pitch perfect.
Oh, yeah.
The whole scene is pitch perfect.
Yeah. And he's basically like, I have to feel like his model for this performance was, what if we took Heath Ledger's Joker, took the face paint away, and like upped his libido by 100,000%? Because he literally like he comes in all intimidating, and you like he knows that he's got you the whole time, and he's just playing it for laughs, sort of, for a certain period of time, and yet women just like fall all over themselves in his presence, which they would do whether or not he had power.
Sure.
But,
Yeah. Well, you know what? That was what the hell was it? That was
Fright
Fright
Night,
the remake.
And
Fright Night.
We're gonna move on just for time. We could probably talk on and on about how much fun that was because it really was.
It was a lot of fun.
But let's move on. Lisa Loeb was in it. Did you realize that? I didn't realize that was.
I
Lisa
didn't realize
Loeb.
Chris Sarandon made a cameo.
Oh, you didn't see that? Yeah, he was the guy in the car.
I totally missed that was Chris Sarandon.
Yeah. I was like so happy. I actually cheered in the theater that he was the guy who played the vampire in the original film, and they give him a little cameo.
I missed that.
I am so irritated
totally,
whenever
totally
a remake or a later reboot or sequel does not make at least a
Some
token effort.
Hell,
to do
Rise of the
something
Planet of the
like
Apes
that.
brought Charlton Heston into the movie, and he was dead.
I know, right?
I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, there's so many nods to the original. In that,
No, that's
but
true.
A lot of, but they're all very subtle. But let's
Actually-
move. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I didn't know where you were going, but if I could really quickly talk about the original film,
Oh,
it
that's
actually
right. I'm sorry.
got,
Oh, shit, yeah.
That's even in my notes.
the original actually got a Blu-ray release this month.
Yeah,
and
much to my surprise because
nobody heard anything about it. In fact, the only reason that I knew anything about it is because Ryan Rotten over at Shock tweeted a picture of it. He had gotten it off this website called ScreenArchives.com. I have no idea how they got the rights to this. You can bring up the Blu-ray.com page for it. But they somehow got the rights, and they put out 3,000 copies. I have no idea why they did such a limited release, but it's already sold out. and copies are going for hundreds of dollars on Amazon and eBay.
Yeah, I know, because when you told me, I was like, oh, come on, bullshit, that can't be. I saw that came out too, because every week I go through the list to see everything that's new, and sure enough, you're not kidding. It's like, it's only used copies at like $150, $160.
And I just happened to see it early enough that I ordered a copy, and it's great. It's a great disc. I'm really impressed with it.
HD reviews I'm seeing saying, it's not a perfect transfer, but it's certainly not a bad one either.
No.
And it's important to note, this movie has never been on Blu-ray before, so the fact that this company out of nowhere put one out completely under the radar in limited quantities?
When the remake was coming out on Blu-ray right at the same time, why would you underplay that?
It was so,
I have
it's so
no
bizarre.
idea.
Well,
it is a really strange situation.
An elaborate tax write-off scam of some sort.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I really don't know. But if for some reason you can get a hold of it, at least you're aware of it now, because I feel like a lot of people weren't even aware of it.
Yeah.
It arrived at our house, and I didn't know it was out on Blu-ray.
So what do you want to trade for that?
Yeah, we can work on that.
Aisha Tyler. Make it happen.
Make it so.
I don't need it that bad.
Anyway, those are the Fright Night films.
But, speaking of sexy woman, let's talk about the Underworld film series, which now is getting its Blu-ray release in a trilogy set. They've all been released separately, of course. And these are a series of very silly, but fast-paced vampire werewolf action films starring, well, the first two star Kate Beckinsale as Celine, a death dealer whose job it is basically to destroy the Lycans, which are werewolves, for the sake initially of the vampires she worked for, but eventually she finds out that those vampires are kind of dicks too. As it goes along, she ends up teaming up with a sort of like werewolf vampire hybrid guy. I don't know. It's one of those things. It's a crazy plot to these films. They go all over the goddamn place. You really can't take it too seriously. They're all a big ripoff of the White Wolf Worlds of Darkness role-playing games. I mean, to the point that there was a lawsuit that was settled in favor of White Wolf.
I didn't know that.
Because it's really,
no idea.
It's really blatant. But
egregious.
That being said, I'm a huge fan of those White Wolf role-playing games. Masquerade was the name of the original one, which was one of the early LARPs. Live-action role-playing ones, where the idea was that you actually acted out, or you could do it tabletop too. But it was role-playing that was designed to be actual role-playing and not just stat building and like, oh, you killed the dragon, oh, there's a thing of gold. The idea was that you build characters and personalities.
Not just jangling your dice.
Yeah, you were trying to tell an elaborate story, not just build points. And that was kind of the point of their whole role-playing system. This takes a lot of the themes, a lot of the actual terms from it, and makes it into the series. Okay, I like that series. I really like these movies. I know they're trash, but they're guilty pleasure trash for me.
Yeah, this is the male version of the Twilight argument, I'm just realizing. It's like, yes, this werewolf versus vampire movie is trash, but I like it anyway, which I'm kind of disturbed, because I like these movies too, for that same reason, but I'm starting to realize how close to that argument of Twilight that this is. And
well, it's not, if anything else, because, all right, so you could say, yes, okay, the Twilight of that, because they're both guilty pleasures, but Twilight, what happens in Twilight? I mean, what are the events of Twilight? What actually happens? Stuff never stops happening in the Underworld films.
That's very true.
Oh my god, the plot goes all over the place. It's crazy, and there are no down moments. I mean, if there's a moment where they're romantic, it's just so we can see someone have sex for 10 seconds.
I like sex.
It's not to like sit and moan about like, oh, you know what? You know, it is for guys. You're right. It totally is. It's Kate Beckinsale in a fucking hot, totally leather and latex outfits, running around, fucking doing acrobatics and shooting people, and occasionally taking it off.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a win-win-win-win-win situation.
Yeah, you can tell me, oh, these are trash, I hate them, I don't see what you see in them. Fine. I'm not.
I don't think anybody's arguing that they're trash, but the question is it enjoyable trash? And I feel like it is.
I feel like they're super enjoyable. In fact, I think they get better as they go along, which is a rarity for trash films.
I don't know about that. I think the first one.
I disagree with you there.
I think the first two are really fun. I think the third one tries to be fun and falls short in a little town north or south of fun.
Well, the only problem I had with Underworld Rise of the Lycans is that I much prefer Kate Beckinsale to the new woman that they brought in for this, Rona Mitra, who I don't find anywhere near as sexy or as good of a performer.
She wasn't.
I like Rona Mitra a lot. I mean, I know she's not Kate Beckinsale, but first of all, I don't think Kate Beckinsale is a great actress by any stretch. I think Rona Mitra can go scene for scene with her as far as acting chops go. Clearly, she's not quite as hot, but I think she's very, very attractive.
Yeah,
I'm all right with Rona Mitra.
I still think she looks like like if Rob Lowe had a twin sister, is what I think. There's something about her that says that to me that I can't disconnect myself from. I believe me, I wish I could.
You wish you could unsee that.
I know. The moment I saw it, I was like, oh my god, it's totally Rob Lowe if it had a twin sister. I can't not
or
see
sex change.
Or sex change, exactly. Sorry.
Son of a bitch.
I mean, I'd still fuck her. Just like that's like the option in case it comes up. I want to be clear, Rona, if you're listening, I'm not kicking you out of bed for the looking like Rob Lowe.
But you'd be thinking about the West Wing the whole time you were doing it.
I would totally. Having sex with her would be like having fast-paced conversations while walking down hallways with my coworkers. All right, so this new set comes also with a very short extra Blu-ray that is with the anime that they made, apparently. That's a little thing that takes place in between the various films with Celine's character who has a sort of grudge match with these very old werewolves. And it's okay, but we're talking like 18 minutes here total.
And you know for a fact that come like May, we're going to get a 4-disc box set, including the new film.
Well, that's the thing, is these are the previous Blu-rays. The only difference at all is that they changed so that instead of a digital copy with the third one that comes with it, it's an ultraviolet copy. And they changed the text on the back of the box that says the differences. I don't even know the difference. I'm not even clear on what this whole ultraviolet thing is opposed to the other.
Digital copies, just the way I briefly understand it, is that, the normal digital copy, you put in the code and you actually download it to your computer and you can physically move that to all your devices. Ultraviolet is trying to make it even more difficult to watch these films by streaming it to your devices. Like, you don't actually have a copy of it. You just have the right to stream it, I think. I don't know. It sounds like a bunch of bullshit, and it's like if you would just include a DVD, I could rip it with Handbrake and everything would be fine.
Yeah, right.
It's just studios trying really, really hard to make it difficult to watch their films, which makes you want to go download it because that's easier.
I wonder how much more
money... Not to encourage piracy, but if you keep making it hard to watch your movies, people are going to go the easier routes.
How much more money have they spent on developing technologies like this?
Exactly.
As opposed to just going, you know what, there's only so much you can do. And doing things like, for instance, having Mission Impossible 4 play in IMAX and have stuff filmed entirely for that, where people are like, well, you ain't going to get that from your home version. Or films like Hugo that are definitively better to see in 3D in the theater. That's how you get people continuing to watch stuff and go to the theater, not by this fucking endless series of retarded moves like this.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, sorry.
So Ultraviolet sucks. And that's the Underworld Blu-rays.
Rant over. That's the Underworld Blu-rays. I'm a fan. I don't care what anybody says. I think they're super fun. I revisit them regularly. Sometimes in my clothes, sometimes not. It depends on the afternoon.
Oh, Cyrus.
Yeah, I know. And whether or not Aisha Taylor has returned any of my phone calls. So
painting a clearer picture of our Saturday afternoon.
So let's move on to Final Destination 5.
5-0 destination, 5-0 goes west.
Can't they just start calling them maybe not the Final Destination?
Yeah, the word final is really suspect in this series.
It really is. Only more guilty in Final Fantasy at this point.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 38. When will it be the Final Fantasy?
No, it's the final. It's just in chapters.
Oh, God. Why?
Eventually, it will end. That's just statistically, it has to, right? So
yeah.
I guess by that argument, no, it doesn't work that way. But this is one that's, again, not going to be the Final Destination. I'm sorry. I'm embarrassed to tell you.
Despite the fact that the last film was called The Final Destination.
What you think would be the idea is that, now we're serious, right? This is the one that is the last one. No, like not even a year later, I think. We've got Final Destination 5, which this time, of course, starts out with a giant accident.
What?
At this point, do you even need to explain the plot? Because it's the same as every other Final Destination movie.
A bunch of teenagers get caught and killed in this giant disaster. Here, it's a bridge collapsing.
All you need to say is, it's a bridge.
And then the one kid goes, and comes out, and none of that shit has happened yet, but it's about to. And he goes, we're all going to die. Everybody get out of here. Everybody get out. And half the people go, fuck you, douche, whatever. And the other half go, well, let's follow them and see what's going on. And they live. And they're not supposed to live because somebody apparently is fucking with death. And sending messages to kids to let them do that. I mean, what is the deal with that?
Okay.
You think this is the sort of thing they would want to explore at this point in the story by 5 movies? Who is the one who is actually sending these psychic messages to these kids, and what is their problem with
If Death is going to get so pissed off that someone gets a vision, and it's so pissed off that he goes after them actively because they survived what they weren't supposed to survive, stop sending them the goddamn visions!
Well, that's what I'm saying. There has to be something. It can't be Death, unless, like the afterlife is just like some terribly mismanaged corporation, We don't know
what we're doing. We're just pulling levers.
That's all I can think, right? And somebody slipped, like Lucille Ball was in there, like eating the chocolates when she couldn't go. I don't know. That's the only thing that makes sense at this point.
And the thing is, like, Death is so a secondary element to these movies anymore. Like, honestly, Death is a secondary villain to shoddy construction.
Yeah.
Because it's just everybody. No one can build a goddamn air conditioning unit or a bridge. Or first of all, there's a sign as they go onto the bridge that I've never seen the sign before on an actual highway. It just shows the bridge broken. And I'm like, why are there so many cars on a bridge if the sign says bridge broken?
Salisbury missed it, but there's like a little piece like hanging off where you can see it was like, it's like a taped on thing, and it's like part of the tape is missing. It's not like
it shows a broken bridge.
I know, but I'm saying it was like not. That's not how it was supposed to be.
You've never seen those like
caution weathered
death,
off.
Caution death.
Caution,
signs?
you're going to die, and then 30 cars are on the bridge when it collapsed. Come on.
All that being said, this is one of the less bad Final Destinations.
It's better than 4.
I like it.
It's got some, like you're saying, as goofy as these things are with these little, what's the word I'm looking for?
Rube
Goldberg deaths.
Yeah.
4 totally fucked that up. Like, had
Terribly.
no idea how to film those sort of things.
Terribly.
3 fared a little better, but not by much. 2 is still the best out of the whole series, but this actually starts to go back to that idea of pretty well planned out Rube Goldberg deaths, so they're fun. You don't know how they're going to play out. You're like, okay, that this character's going to die here, but it's really unclear how. Like I said, in 4, you knew the moment you saw them in the setup how they were going to die. That was end of story, not interesting. All right, so we get back to that. That's one plus. The other big plus is, wow, it's got a super clever twist ending.
The ending is really good.
Yeah.
Awesome ending.
And obviously
I love it.
Obviously we're not going to spoil it, but I do kind of want to give a hint. And the only hint I'm going to give is the word cell phone. That's it. That's all I'm going to say.
I will say that you'll appreciate this movie more if you're a fan of the series as opposed to just
Definitely.
coming in and watching it alone. I mean, there's no question. It relates, it references earlier films, as some of the others do as well, and you're not going to get some of the jokes unless you've seen the other films.
Yeah, it's definitely important to have seen the rest of the films in the series. And I mean, at this point, everybody knows what to look for in a Final Destination film. We're here for the kills.
Yeah.
Everyone is here for the kills. The kills are pretty good. The ending is great. And so the rest of it,
Yeah, I mean, at its worst,
it doesn't really matter. Like, I think it succeeded at what it set out to do.
Yeah.
At its worst, it has terrible dialogue, and some of the setups are really stupid, but at its best, which it does get to several times, it's like playing Mousetrap with Jigsaw.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually all the pieces fall into place, and you get a great kill.
If you're not a fan of this type of films, you're not going to be a fan of this one.
No,
Plus,
not
it
at all.
stars young Tom Cruise. So.
The guy, he looks exactly like Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Are you talking Nicholas?
No.
No.
Peter Friedkin. Miles Fisher.
Miles Fisher, really? Okay.
I think so. Click on him.
Yes,
Tom Cruise. Look at Tom Cruise.
I think that's a picture of Tom Cruise they're using for him.
He does look like
From
that,
Dallas,
right.
Texas, it turns out.
Yeah.
The kid looks exact, and he has like the same mannerisms
Yeah.
and the same speech
He's
cadence.
so twitchy, and he's got the big eyebrows.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
weird.
It's got Emma Bell, who's super hot, too.
Yeah, Emma Bell's very, very
And
attractive.
Tony Todd appears again,
Of
who I
course
don't even
he
think
does.
was in the last one.
nothing else to
Which,
do.
I'm sorry, if you're making a Final Destination film and Tony Todd doesn't show up to say something ominous that he probably should have mentioned to the kids in the earlier films, then it's not a Final Destination film.
My bad. I was on Facebook.
Did I not?
Sorry.
I didn't look up. that you're not allowed to do that either.
Voodoo. Magic.
My bad.
I love that guy.
I do too. I'm never unhappy about seeing Tony Todd appear.
Oh, so much fun.
Yeah. All right, so that was Final Destination 5.
5-0 Destination.
Moving on, and this is a smaller film called Chop that came to my attention because Bloody Disgusting, the website, which is a pretty funny, pretty good horror site on the whole, has gotten a deal with these people, and I don't know how they got it, but because we totally need to get this at Spill, I swear to God, where they get to like say, oh, this is Bloody Disgusting Presents, and there's a little ad before the movie for Bloody Disgusting, and the last one they did, which I believe was called Phase 7.
It was a South by Midnight title.
I'm looking it up now because Brian borrowed it from me, actually.
Yeah, it's Phase 7.
Yeah, Phase 7 was actually really good. I liked it quite a bit. So I was like, oh, I'm excited. I want to see what this one is. And I don't care what anybody says. I didn't like this.
This movie is god-awful.
Oh,
It's
thank God,
really
you said
It
shitty.
is fucking
It's
terrible.
such a piece of
There's
shit.
so many good reviews for this online.
In fact-
Oh, wait. Are they all
gotta-
from Bloody Disgusting by
No,
any chance?
But they're from
Hey.
other horror sites. And I'm like, what is it that you see in this? This has got some of the worst acting in it. It's people who don't get the idea
It's
of
really,
broad
really
comedy.
bad.
Because it's supposed to be a comedy horror, but it is a torture porn.
Yeah, let me
comedy
try and
horror.
explain the plot of this. And I use that term very liberally
loosely.
here. Okay, or loosely, thank you, loosely here. A guy is kidnapped by some psycho who tells him that he either has to kill his brother or the person on the phone is going to kill his wife, so he has to make this decision, blah, blah, blah. Turns out, no, they never had his wife, so he just killed his brother. Now this guy's got leverage over him because he knows where the body's buried. And he keeps showing up to, I shit you not, cut pieces off the guy, just to torture him. So he just keeps showing up, drugging him, and cutting off another piece. Then he starts inviting people that this guy has dicked over in his life to come and cut pieces off of this guy.
And the whole premise here is that it'll all stop one way or the other if the guy can just remember what he did to fuck over this guy.
Oh, God.
Something happened in his past, and as it goes on, we discover this guy was a big crackhead. He fucked over lots of people.
Kills a hooker.
And he just has
Yeah, there's no one.
idea.
The biggest problem this movie has, there's no one to root for.
There is absolutely no
There's
one
no
to root for.
There's no good. It's like this guy's a dick. He's been kidnapped by a psychopath. You may consider this a spoiler, so if you do and you're curious, stop listening now. When you get to the end to find out what he actually did to this guy, it's so petty.
It's a Shaggy Dog story.
It's so fucking petty.
It's a Shaggy
that
Dog
just like,
joke that they build it and they build it and they build it. Oh my God, what can it be? What can it be? And then you're like, really? There is no punchline.
It's the kind
It's
of
a
thing.
fuck you. It's a fuck you to the audience.
What it does, yeah, it's a total fuck you to the audience. And what he actually does to this guy is something that in normal life you'd be like, well, that guy was a dick, and you would go on with your daily fucking life.
Yeah, it's such. You know what? And
the script was written by a petulant child.
This is an amateur film. It really is. I have no idea why this particular film got singled out for distribution. And you hate to be the guy to shit on somebody's baby, but this is the type of film that, you know...
It's lazy. It's just plain lazy.
It's not good enough to have played South by. It's not good enough to have played Fantastic Fest. You know, this is the type of film that if you had seen it at even on a film festival level, you would have been like, wow, this really wasn't good enough to
Here's
play.
a great example of its ineptitude. At one point, this woman who you think is going to cut off his dick says this line, which is, I think it'd be worse to have a dick but not have any hands
to jerk
off with. Hand me the axe. And then what does she do? She cuts off his leg.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still
Why?
has two hands.
Why?
Still has both
Still
hands.
has both hands. Never explains
off.
why she chooses the leg.
There's so much stuff like that in this film. I think, all right, did we mention this is supposed to be a comedy? Did I mention that this is
It's
supposed to be a
not
broad
funny
comedy?
at all.
No
It's
laughs in this film.
startlingly unfunny, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that these actors are, every single one of them, just fucking awful.
They found them in an extra pool of the worst extras.
I honestly kind of feel bad about shitting on this movie because this is obviously a movie made by amateurs. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean like these people haven't made movies. These people haven't acted in movies. It's poorly shot. It's poorly directed. It's poorly written. It's poorly edited. In any other case, we wouldn't even talk about this movie because what good could it do? But somebody decided to distribute it.
Yeah.
And so...
and there's so many
it's
great movies that
available-
don't get distribution, and this just pisses me off.
Yeah, I don't know why. Because honestly, it seems like Bloody Disgusting is the deal they have is with a company called The Collective, and the lady in charge of that, I believe, is a lady named Roxanne Benjamin, and she's picked up some good stuff. Like Phase 7 is a good pickup.
Really good film.
I know a lot of people hate it, and I totally understand, but I kind of dig Yellow Brick Road, and in comparison to Chop, Yellow Brick Road has a kernel of a good idea. Even if you hate it, you have to admit that there's thought.
There is some kind of thought that went into it.
I can't help but feel that there would have been a way to do this good, because I don't think this is a terrible idea. It's just every degree of its execution is so bad. I mean,
I think it's a pretty terrible idea.
I think the idea is lazy.
I don't agree. I don't agree with that. I think there could have been an interesting way to tell this story. But because I've never seen this story before, this is new at least, and I'll give them points for that. But like I said, that's the only thing I can give this film points for, because everything else about it is just absolutely terrible. And I don't mean in the sort of fun to watch terrible. I mean in the exhausting to get through terrible.
Yes.
As you watch a really drunk guy at a bar tell ancient jokes in a terrible way, and he keeps forgetting the punchlines type of way.
They should have called this movie Chore.
I have had discussions today with people, other critics who I respect a lot, who for some reason gave this movie a pass, and I can't understand.
I don't understand that either. But there is a movie that we're talking about at the end of our heart.
This was Chop,
thing
by
now that was worse. Thank you. That was worse than Chop for me, at least, and that's and it got a theatrical release. That's Apollo 18.
Worse than Chop?
I hated this so much worse than Chop, because whereas Chop is a terrible movie, like I said, at least I give it points by the fact that at least it's this amateurish, tiny little production, as you said, of people, like, you hate shitting on it because it's obviously these people new to what they're doing.
Yeah, they're trying, because it's not going to do them any good for you to sit there and tell it.
But it does.
They're the type of people that just need to keep making.
It does the consuming public no good to let these guys get a pass either. That's my thing. It's we don't want to shit on it because
you shouldn't spend your money on this.
But how do they, when they look at that box in like a video store, they see Bloody Disgusting presents this movie. So it's like, oh, I know that site. Obviously, this must be a good horror movie. That's irresponsible, in my opinion.
It's unfortunate. It really is. Yeah. But, Bloody Disgusting has the select site. They do have some good stuff coming up. They've got VHS playing at Sundance, which I know a lot of us are really excited to see. So, don't shy away from the brand. This one in particular is really bad. Hopefully, those guys will keep making movies. And
Agreed.
I absolutely agree. Because generally speaking, I like what they do over there.
Agreed.
But Apollo 18, I think, is less excusable because they do have a budget to pull from. This is produced by that guy Timur Bingham, who did Day Watch and Night Watch, and recently the fucking.
What was that last name again? Oh, okay, good.
Who did The Darkest Hour recently. He produced that. And Wanted, he directed that. And actually, I think he directed The Darkest Hour as well.
May have,
but this is not directed by him. It's just produced. But come on, man. This is just bullshit. This is more of them just blatantly going, look, here's this idea we have for another found footage film. It all takes place in 2 fucking locations inside the capsule of the ship and on the moon, both of which are zero budget things to build.
Yeah.
So we can actually afford some actors that we want to get, and we can, audiences love this shit right now. And it is, talk about lazy. This is one of the laziest films I've seen in as long as I can remember. I mean, the idea being that this, the Apollo missions, there was no Apollo 18 mission, right? But the premise of the film is, there was. We denied it ever happened.
Before we get into this, I heard you describe this movie to somebody the other day and totally spoil the ending.
Yeah.
So
I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Although I feel like I should, just to say, people go, I can't believe you spoiled the ending. It's like, good. Maybe you won't watch it now.
No, never do that.
I know, but I'm so tempted because I really.
I'm with you. There are movies.
It's hard to talk about because that thing that we're talking about is the only thing that happens in the goddamn film.
That is the problem.
And it doesn't happen till the fucking third act. The first 2 acts literally are you watching nothing.
It's like
happen.
The real world, the moon, and not the interesting fighting, getting drunk in the hot tub real world.
Dude, it's not even interesting as that because you're watching supposed to be 1974 cameras on a lunar lander that look like absolute shit where you can barely make out what the fuck is going on. You're watching that for an hour and a half.
It's really poor.
You didn't need to be that authentic. There's authenticity, but not at the expense of theatricality.
In their defense, the reason that things look shitty in this movie is because of every motherfucker on the paranormal movies who are like, I love that the VHS looks like HD. I'm like, you know what, motherfucker? I'd rather see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't want it shot on VHS. VHS. I know it's supposed... That's called suspension of disbelief.
And I hate the fact that, oh my god...
You assholes.
It irritates the shit out of me that Dimension's playing up the whole game, the producers. Oh no, man, this is real found footage, I
Shut
swear.
the fuck up.
Oh really? Do you really think anybody believes that
We
shit
have
anymore?
the internet
IMDb
now.
exists.
Yeah.
Your argument is null and void.
Honestly, Blair Witch was the last film that could get away with that.
Because
it was
IMDb and the
before
internet
Wikipedia.
weren't prevalent. Like, you couldn't just go and look up these actors.
Yeah.
So it's over. Sorry, stop doing it.
That's why the fourth kind doesn't work.
Yeah,
they try
exactly.
so hard in the fourth kind, and it's like, you know what? You actually did a pretty good job, because while I was sitting in the theater, I was kind of going, holy shit, maybe there's some truth to this. And 10 minutes after I left the theater, I found out that it wasn't true, because I can use Google.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. Well,
Use Google.
I assumed there was no truth to it because it sounded like the same bullshit that you've...
Well, I
Yeah,
assume there was no
no,
truth
but
because Mia Jovovich walks up and goes, "No, seriously, guys, this is totally real. It's totally real. Believe us." And I'm like, "Fuck you, no, it's not."
That part was bad, but I think the rest of the film did an acceptable job of
She's
trying
like,
to
look at
prove
my
it.
boob. My nipple is erect. I'm getting the chills, obviously, because of how true this story is.
And not
But see,
because of the
just like with the fourth kind, I think if they had just shown us footage and not tried to ram it down our throats that it was real, there are scenes in that movie that
They're
still
creepy.
creep me out.
Very creepy.
I think that Apollo 18 would have worked as a movie if it had just been a narrative feature. If they had taken out the found footage bullshit.
You gotta move the third act up to like
Okay,
act
but
one
think
and a
about this.
half.
All those boring moments where we're stuck inside the cabin, what if they could pull out and show like sci-fi vistas and the moon and like the Earth coming up and
I don't agree, because I think that the whole premise of which you won't let me say of what the thing is, there's no way
Damn
it
right.
can come into the plot until the very end of it, and it's so retarded. It is so absolutely ridiculous and
I
stupid
kinda love
on
it.
every level.
I
So
love it.
implausible that there's just nothing scary. about
implausible. Yes.
Oh,
do I still
first
like
of
it?
all,
Yes.
Its resemblance to something that exists in the real world that I am terrified of makes
Yeah.
it terrifying.
it.
Yeah, there is that. There is that. But no, I think that there is an interest, not what it is that's interesting, but how they relate that to history that's kind of interesting. And I really feel like if they could have just gotten rid of the found footage bullshit and just made a movie like this about astronauts on the moon facing a terror they weren't expecting, that would have at least been watchable.
Yeah.
That would have been somewhat interesting. That would have been a movie that we could be like, oh, okay, fine. It didn't work for us, but nice try.
I don't know. I felt like if you're going to make a thing like this, it feels like whatever it is, they should have picked it up along the way instead of once they got there. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that...
so much of the movie on the way.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense that it takes place on the moon because this movie has no atmosphere.
Anyway, that's Apollo 18, and that movie is shitty.
It
Yeah.
is shitty. In
It's
fact,
pretty
it's
shitty.
leaving such a bad taste in my mouth. I need to get another Jack and Coke so we can move on and do our mop-up segment, the final sequence where we pull the stuff that didn't necessarily fit in any of the other categories that we were talking about so far. So we'll be back after the break, and we have one last really sizable giveaway for you guys, so stay tuned.